Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. First off, I just want to say howdy to everyone. I know it's been a little while since my last post, and I apologize. I've just been a little busy with work and my personal life, so just haven't had as much time to upload this week. But hopefully, starting with this video, we'll get back on our regular uploading schedule. Second thing that I wanted to mention is if you have a story that is your own personal story, or maybe one that you found online that you think is an interesting read, feel free to send it to the email in the description and I'll try to get to it in the next video. Last thing before we get started is I just wanted to say thank you for watching this video, and I really appreciate you guys sticking around and watching my content. If there's any way that I can make these videos better for you in the future, please let me know down in the comments. Alrighty guys, it's time to get started. Let's go ahead and dive into our first story. So, our first story is titled, Don't Be Afraid to Make a Move. Today, I, 25 male, went to the theater to watch The Odyssey. Keep in mind this movie is 3 hours long with my friend. We walk in and take out book seats to sit down. Not long after, a group of girls come by, ages roughly 25 to 50, and sit in the remaining seats next to us. So, the pre-movie ads start and the trailers begin. So, I make myself comfortable and talk to my friend about upcoming movies. When, out of the corner of my eye, I notice the girl next to me taking quick glances at me. I ignore this and just mind my own business. As the trailers and then the movie start, I notice more glances towards me. So, I reciprocate the glance. I was intrigued. Due to the movie being long, I lean into the corner of my seat, away from my friend and towards the stranger. Not too long after, the girl next to me does the same thing. Coincidence, right? The movie continues, and as it goes on, we move and shuffle around, but we always end up leaning close to each other after a while. As the hours went by and the final act started coming on, I noticed her quirks, how she would move about and adjust herself, her giggles, and her highly expressive excitement and fear she experienced while watching the movie. As the final act started to play and the tension of the scene started to rise, we began to lean into each other more and more, where there's barely enough room to fit a small box of popcorn between our heads. As this was going on, I was thinking if I should say something to her, which move to to make on her, or what I should say. The movie keeps playing, and we stayed like this for the final 20-ish minutes of the movie. Credits come on, and I quickly adjust myself, and as I'm doing this, I notice the girl does a triple take at me. I quickly look at her a few times without her seeing as well, taking note of everything, and my first thought was, she seems a bit older than me. I'm not going to say anything to her. However, I started to think if I should say anything, and then what to say. I turned to her to say something, but I just end up not saying anything. My friend and I leave the theater, and a large, heavy feeling of sadness and disappointment came over me. As we leave to head to our car, we stop in the foyer, and I see the girl walk past, roughly my age, give or take a couple of years, walk by with whom I assume is her mom and a sister as she glances at me. I thought about saying something, but I didn't. I had the perfect moment in the theater. I knew it, and I didn't do anything. I regretted this very much. Now for the lesson. If you happen to be a person like me, one who is sometimes afraid of talking to new people, and sees people acting or making advances at you but decides not to acknowledge them, you should ignore the anxiety, the fear, because once the moment is gone, you will feel as if you missed the opportunity of a lifetime. So take the chance, take the risk. That story is now over. All right, so I have some thoughts about this. Man, I'm kind of sad. When I started the story, I really thought that we were going to have a happy, wholesome ending, which in the end, it's unfortunate that the OP didn't get to, talk to this girl, maybe, exchange contact information and kind of see where it potentially could have went from there. So that's kind of sad. But I think this story does kind of have a positive ending, as in there was a lesson to be had, right? Although the OP didn't have the happy ending that we were hoping for, at least at the end of the day, he was able to learn a valuable lesson that sometimes, missing the shot that you don't take is worse than shooting that shot and missing it altogether. If that made any sense, trying to drop some words of wisdom over here. But yeah, like you said at the end, take that chance, take the risk, and I couldn't agree more. Sad that, this didn't happen for the poster, but who knows? Maybe they'll cross paths in the future. Who's truly to say? All right, guys, let me know what you think down in the comments. Let's go ahead and jump into another story. Our next story is titled The Night I Realized We Weren't Alone in That House. This is going to be a long story, but hear me out. Back when I was in college, I worked at a bar. After closing, we'd usually stay for another hour or two, practicing cocktails, playing darts or pool, and just hanging out before heading home. It was one of those places where nobody was ever in a hurry to leave. One night, after the manager had already left, there were five of us remaining. There was me, two coworkers around my age, a guy and a girl, and one of our regular customers, whom I'll call A. It was sometime after 2 a.m. Maybe it was because of the hour, but A suddenly suggested, "Want to go check out a haunted house?" He said he had a friend who we'll call B, who was known for being unusually sensitive to the paranormal. B had just come back into town, and if he agreed to drive, the rest of us could pile into his car and go on a late night ghost hunt. There was an abandoned house everyone in my hometown knew about. I'll call it the Hoda House. It stood by itself, separated from the neighboring homes by empty lots. A tall iron gate and fence surrounded the property. The yard had long since been swallowed up by weeds, and near the front porch sat a rusty tricycle and an old swing set, as if a family had just simply vanished one day. Nobody had lived there for years. The rumors never stopped. People claimed they'd see someone standing in the windows, even though the house was completely empty. Others said they heard low, moaning voices coming from inside. The most common warning was simple: never go onto that property. If you cross the fence, something follows you home. Eventually, B agreed to drive us. On the way there, we passed another famous haunted location in the area. For some reason, as we drove past it, B quietly smiled to himself. Not a friendly smile, more like he was looking at something only he could see. I remember asking him why, but as I was going to say this, something about it made me decide not to. B barely spoke. People always said he could see spirits, but he never talked about it. He just kept driving. When we arrived, we got out of the car and slowly walked around outside the fence. Nothing happened. No strange sounds, no figures in the windows. The girl and I quietly looked at the abandoned tricycle and whispered that maybe all the stories, they were just rumors. Honestly, I figured we'd look around for another minute or two and we'd just head back. Then our male coworker, I'll call him C, said, "All right, guess it's time to go inside." We immediately objected. "Wait, isn't that trespassing?" "But if nobody goes in, this isn't much of a ghost hunt," he laughed. Then he walked over to the fence. He grabbed the top rail and started to climb over. The instant he lifted himself onto the fence, B lunged forward from behind him. He grabbed C from around the waist with surprising force and yanked him back down hard. Without even looking towards the house, B said only one thing: "We're leaving. Get in the car." His voice was so serious that nobody argued, except for C, who complained the whole way back. When we finally returned to the bar, someone asked B, "Did you see something back there?" B stayed silent for several seconds. Then he looked directly at C. "The moment you started climbing over the fence, a man appeared right in front of you. His eyes, they were completely black. If you'd leaned over a little farther, you would have walked straight into him. He paused. I don't know what would have happened if you had, but what I felt wasn't just hostility. If you wanted to come closer, it was waiting for you. That's why I pulled you back. I've never gone back to the Hota house. As far as I know, it's still standing. That story is now over. So, that is a pretty crazy story. Pretty spooky story, you could say. Crazy that this bee guy could see spirits like that and ended up potentially saving this sea guy's life. Who's to say? Anyways, let me know what you guys think down in the comments if you want me to read more scary stories or if you want to hear less of them. Either way, just let me know. Alrighty, guys, let's jump into another story. So, our next story is titled, You Never Know Who's Gonna Become a Friend. I'm 28, male, just the typical guy. I work a regular 9 to 5. I spend my weekends chilling out at the mall. I enjoy going to the movies. I rarely go to the club. I'm cool spending a Friday night hanging out at the crib, ordering a pizza, watching a couple movies to decompress from the work week. All activities that I can partake in by myself. A few years back, living in university apartment housing while I was taking classes at the local college, I was assigned a few random roommates. Everyone had their own room and bathroom. We all shared a common area, kitchen/living room, with a washer and dryer space. So, basically, my roommate, we'll call him Rick, we became friends. Watched some movies together, played video games. We'd hit up a Mexican restaurant before checking out a movie at the theater. We talked sports, life, relationships, etc. Now, Rick and I last year continued being roommates, but we moved to a new apartment not affiliated with the university. We just moved to a standard 2-bedroom apartment where we split rent and utility costs between ourselves. I continued working my 9 to 5 job without the added stress of classwork this past year, and Rick continued to work part time while also balancing student life as well. Here we are today. Rick, now that he's graduated college back in May, he's decided to move back to his hometown where he hopes to find work. So, we're not renewing our lease. He's going to be able to stay with family for a while before getting a new apartment. And myself, I've signed a new lease for a new apartment. We're both going our separate ways after seeing each other, if not every day of the week, then at least 4 days out of the week the last 3 years. Truth is, every chapter of your life presents new lessons, new people, and new opportunity. Rick and I are still friends, but we're no longer roommates. We can always meet up once every other month to see a movie or something, but schedules don't always align, as we know. My point in posting here is to say this. To anyone feeling lonely right now, or feeling like you can't meet people that genuinely want to be your friend, I hope you know that there's always chances to meet people. You never know where you're going to meet someone that you click with. Also, you never know when life's going to turn the page. People do move on with life. They get a new job, they get married, they have kids, they move to a new city, they pass away unexpectedly. I never knew that Rick and I were going to become friends, but I'm really happy we did. Next time you're hanging out with a friend or with your whole squad, really try and enjoy that time with them. The times do change, but the time we all get together is worth cherishing while it's still in front of us. That story is now over. I really liked that story. I had read it earlier, thought it was a very positive read, and a really good way, I thought it was a really good outlook on life. Like the poster said, when he was going to university, he randomly got assigned a roommate. Again, they had their own rooms, own bathrooms, really didn't have to particularly associate with one another other than really in the shared living spaces. But I found this story really wholesome and really positive and just, an overall good read to show that although they were just roommates for college, living in that shared space really bloomed into a relationship, a friendship that wouldn't be on the college. I mean, shoot, they moved off to an unaffiliated, apartment together and, lived there together for a while and enjoyed their friendship, went to the movies, went out to eat together, things like that. And like you said, there's different seasons in life. You're going to have positive seasons, you're going to have maybe not so positive seasons. But at the end of the day, cherish the time that you do have because you never know when that time's going to be up. So, again, let me know what you guys think in the comments, but I really like that story. Really like that story overall. Just super positive. Anyways, let's go ahead and get into another story. The next story is titled, Does She Like Me? So, I have a thing for my neighbor. Actually, I think we have a thing for each other. Here are some signs that I picked up on. I don't want to seem like I'm in my head. I'm a stud that's considered laid back and I stay out of my way. Sorry, the word stud just really caught me off guard. And she's beautiful and people migrate to her. Moral of the story, she has aura. Unlimited aura, I guess. The signs are she parks in my usual parking spot. It's not assigned, but I just park there a lot. It's times where me and her could pull up at the same time, and it's like we both procrastinated so we can walk up to the doors together. And we just talk. I talk, but I get nervous and cut the conversation short. Then it was a time when my friend was picking me up and she was giving me like a rough or mean mug look when I got in the car. Well, today she kind of shocked me. Today they were working on the pavement in my apartment complex and she knocked on my door and said, "Hey, you might want to move your car before they tow it." And she was standing by the door watching them, looking at my car, and stood there until I came out and moved it. Thoughts? Or am I overthinking? I hope I made sense. Alright, and that's the end of this story. So, that was kind of a quick one. I don't know if she likes you, my guy. she might. She might be interested, right? Saying that she's maybe procrastinating so you guys can walk up to the doors together. That's a sign. But the thing about your car being towed, maybe that is a sign too. Or, hear me out, she might just be trying to be a good person. Again, it could be a sign. I'm not sure if there's a lot of evidence there. And I do like that you called yourself a stud and that you said she had aura. I thought that was funny. But anyways, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Am I missing that? Am I reading that wrong? Or do you think there's not enough evidence to suffice on if she likes him or not? Anyways, let's jump into another story. Our next story is titled, What's the Creepiest Thing You've Ever Seen While Exploring? We were wandering around this abandoned spot somewhere near Newark, just following whatever felt interesting. Deep in one of the buildings, there were these two dudes at the bando shooting up. Didn't really think twice about it. Around there, seeing people faded out and moving like zombies wasn't really exactly rare. After checking out the last room, we headed into this long, dark tunnel. That's when it started getting weird. We kept hearing little sounds behind us. Footsteps, shuffling, something. Every time we'd stop, it would stop too. Finally, we turned around. Those same two guys were sitting way back in the darkness, far enough away that they were almost blending into it, but close enough that we could make out their eyes. Their pupils were blown so wide, they looked almost completely black, just staring. Nobody said a word. We booked it straight toward the light at the end of the tunnel. They never chased us. They never called out. They didn't even seem to notice that we were there. But that's the part that still messes with me. It was pitch black where they were sitting. We had walked right past them on the way in, close enough to brush by them, and somehow neither of us saw them. Not even a shadow. When we got inside, we couldn't help ourselves. We turned around and looked down that tunnel. And that's the end of our story. So, that is a super creepy story. It gives me goosebumps thinking about it. First off, you would never see me going anywhere like in an abandoned building or anything like that. I love those videos where people explore them. I think those videos are super cool and super interesting. But that's about as close as I'll get. Same thing with like cave diving and all that crazy stuff. I'm like, It's cool to watch somebody go into the underwater cave, but will you ever catch me there? Nah. I value my life. So, same thing with this. You would never catch me in an abandoned, scary, sketchy building like this, but happy that these guys made it through. They didn't die, it sounds like. They made it through. They lived to tell the tale. But yeah, that's pretty creepy. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Let's go ahead and move into our next story. Our last story is titled, Have you ever experienced a phenomenon in your life that you can't explain? Can someone tell me what this experience was, or if there's a name for it? As a child, I was very restless. It was always common for me to wake up in the middle of the night and walk into the living room. Sometimes I'd just sit there, play with toys, or mess with random household items. There was one night when I was 5 years old. I had another restless night of waking up. Again, I walked into the living room and just messed around. This time, everything felt different. It was still dark outside and it felt oddly peaceful and cold. All of a sudden, I looked up and it was snowing. Large snowballs just falling from the sky. It was no longer dark outside. While it was snowing, I heard this faint humming noise. The snowfall lasted for about 4 seconds. Then, all of a sudden, everything went back to normal. It was dark outside again, no snow. The room was same as it was and always had been. I was completely mesmerized by the snow. I was dumbfounded that it just went away just like that. I even looked outside again to see if there was melted snow on the ground. Nope, nothing. Here's the thing. I live in a drier climate where it's warm year round pretty much. Never snows. We don't really get harsh winters here. It doesn't randomly snow. As a child, it was incredible. It was a beautiful feeling. Now, as an adult, it's kind of eerie to think about. I remember everything so vividly, even the humming noise as the snow fell, and how the room became brighter and colder as it snowed. It was strange how it occurred for about 4 seconds, then snap, back to normal. And no, I was not still half asleep before I get those "could you be dreaming" comments. I always woke up with full energy. It took me a while to go back to sleep. This was the first time I experienced anything like this. That is the end of our story. I'm reading through the comments now and I'm seeing some people talk about different types of hallucinations that people can have and how potentially that's what this experience was. I've never had an experience like that. And if I did, that would be pretty crazy. So I can't imagine being a kid. And like you said, I'm sure he was like, especially living in a drier climate. I live in a drier climate. So I can imagine as a kid, especially waking up, going to your living room, and all of a sudden it's no longer nighttime and it's snowing. I'd be like, this is amazing. And then boom, snaps right back to reality and being like, man, what was that? So, but yeah, it sounds like people are referencing some type of hallucination. And that's probably what it was. But if you think it's something different, let me know down in the comments below. Alrighty, guys. I think that's going to do it for me today. I just wanted to say before I head out how much I really appreciate you guys tuning into these videos. Like I said, I just do these videos for fun. So it's really cool to see that we've created a little community together. Like I said, I think it's been about 4 weeks since I posted my first Reddit story video. And currently, as of recording this, we have 215 subscribers. And that to me just blows my mind that there's 215 people out there that, subscribe to my channel to listen to this type of content. I really appreciate it. I love you guys. Thank you so much for the support. It truly means the world to me, and I can't thank you all enough. The next thing I just wanted to say is if I can make these videos any better, if there's anything that I can do to make these videos better for you guys, please let me know down in the comments. Like I said, I do these videos for fun, but at the end of the day, they are for your enjoyment. So let me know if there's anything that I can do to make these videos better. Last thing that I just wanted to touch on is if you have a story of your own or a story that you found online that you think would be an interesting read, please feel free to send it to the email down in the description below. I would love to read it. Anyways, guys, just wanted to say thank you again. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. All right, guys. Bye.